Morning, guys. If you're watching this is Unit 2, Physical Geography. Uh, the notes go along with it, so fill in the blanks as we go. You can also use the PowerPoint to fill it out as you go. I know the board back here is backwards to you guys, but the PowerPoint on Classroom's not, so you can follow along as I go through it. If you have any questions or anything, you can leave a comment or shoot me an email, something like that, and we'll get it straightened out. Okay. Unit 2, Physical Geography. So with climate, there are three main characteristics of climate. You got temperature. Super easy. How hot or cold an area is. Okay? It's either measured in Celsius or Fahrenheit. If you use Celsius, you're a communist, basically. Okay, if it ain't Fahrenheit, it's not right. That's what we use in America. That's the way everything's going to be measured, as far as I'm concerned. And we're going to deal with it. Mainly because I don't understand Celsius. I know 32 Fahrenheit is 0, and then 212 Fahrenheit is 100 Celsius. And that doesn't make sense. So, we're just going to stick with Fahrenheit. Precipitation is the amount of water an area receives due to the weather. This can be rain, snow, mist, fog, whatever. If water gets from the sky to the ground, it counts as precipitation. For example, we got hit with the hurricane rains this past weekend. Okay, that's precipitation. You have seasons: hot, cold, wet, dry. Mainly when we talk about seasons, this is more Africa, Southeast Asia, where they have 2 clear seasons. We have 4, but still, you got seasons. Questions here? Elements of climate. You have the influence of latitude. Remember, we talked about last week, latitude are the side-to-side, east to west lines. Low latitude is 0 to 30 degrees from the equator. Okay, so it's low and low. Middle latitude is 30 to 60 degrees from the equator. That's where we live. High latitude is 60 to 90. Okay? You have the influence of the winds. This helps distribute heat, okay, or lack thereof. Elevation. For example, you see this more when you go out west, but you can be sitting on the plains where it's warm and look at the mountains and see snow at the top of the mountain. Okay, that's the influence of elevation. You have the proximity to water. Okay, if you're closer to a body of water, the temperature stays more similar throughout the year. Okay, I'm not talking about like Crater Lake. That's not a big enough body of water to affect it. I'm talking like the beach or the Great Lakes, things like that. It moderates temperature. Then you have the influence of ocean currents, and what this does is it can, like the Gulf Stream, which comes up the east coast of the United States, that brings warm water from the Caribbean up along the coast of the United States. It gets cold, and then there's a cold current along the northwestern coast of Africa. Okay? Questions here? So these are the different climate regions within the latitudes. Okay? So in the low latitudes, you have 2 main climate regions. You got tropical wet. This is where it rains a lot and it's hot. Okay, it's a rainforest. Tropical wet is rainforest. Tropical wet and dry is like the savanna in Africa. Okay, it rains half the year. It's still hot, but it doesn't rain as much as a rainforest. Questions there? All right. Middle latitudes is where you see the most diversity. Okay? You have Mediterranean climate, which is characterized by hot, dry summers and cool, wet winters. This, surprisingly, is around the Mediterranean Sea in Europe. Okay? Humid continental, this is characterized by large seasonal temperature contrasts with hot summers, cold winters. This is the northern hemisphere. This is us. Okay? Humid continental is our climate. Humid subtropical, this is hot and humid summers, cold to mild winters. This is like South Carolina down into Florida, Louisiana. Marine west coast is characterized by mild summers and winters and abundant annual precipitation. This is like Washington State, Seattle, where it rains all the time. Questions? You good? Okay. High latitudes. There's 3 up here. You have subarctic. This is long, usually very cold winters, short, cool to mild summers. These also include boreal forests, such as the taiga. Okay? When you see right here, taiga, how do you pronounce it? That's talking about a huge forest in Siberia, in Russia. Okay? Any other forest like it? You got the tundra, which is a cold grassland. Temperatures never rise above 50. Very dry, very cold. What you see here is just like moss, little bits of grass. You're not going to see trees or anything like that. Okay? Then you got the ice cap. Okay, this is polar climate. The average temperature will never get above freezing. You don't want to live here. No vegetation, hardly. You might see some animals like penguins or polar bears or things like that, but you're not going to get anything abundant. Questions? Okay, these are the 3 that don't really count as far as regions. They could be in any of the latitudes. The arid climate, or this is a desert, there's an excess of evaporation over precipitation. That means it's so hot that when it rains, it rarely rains. There we go. It's so hot it rarely rains. Semi-arid is the same thing, but the level of precipitation is a little higher than a desert. And then a highland, this is literally just found in high mountain areas. Okay, so the highland climate is like mountains. Any questions there? All right. Vegetation regions, these are very similar. Okay, you have the rainforest, which is a forest with broadleaf trees located in low latitudes. The savanna is a tropical grassland in Africa. You got a desert steppe, which is a dry grassland near deserts such as the Sahara and the Gobi. We'll come back to it in a second. You got the middle latitude forest, which is mixed forest with coniferous and deciduous trees. The taiga, which is a coniferous forest located in Russia. And the tundra, a cold grassland with permafrost. So there you go. I'll let you get these copied now. Those of you watching the video, this is a good time for you to copy down your notes as well. Or you can sit here and stare at me standing at the door, whatever. Kind of weird, but whatever. By the way, online kids, I forgot to say my first block this. Check your email. We're doing a Zoom meeting, or not Zoom, a Google Meet meeting tomorrow. So, check your email. Not you guys. I see you guys every day. I don't need to see you an extra day right now.
Can we check?
I mean, do you want to?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then yeah. So, virtual kids, Google Meet tomorrow. There's your next section. like these more than masks. Much more comfortable.
Where's the rest of this? There's a blank, but it all says full grassland and full frost.
This is blank is any ground that remains completely frozen.
Permafrost.
The rest of it.
I know, just put it again. The same thing. Guys, that extra blank under tundra is permafrost. Okay? Where it says cold grassland with permafrost. Permafrost is the next blank as well. I just didn't put it up here. Sorry. That was like a last second addition. Okay, I'm building this from the ground up. Leave me alone, guys. I'm doing my best. Let's talk about the weather. Let's talk about monsoons. So monsoons are found in South and Southeast Asia. They're wind patterns. Okay? So usually when you hear someone around here say monsoon, they're talking about rain. Okay? The monsoon's not the rain. It's the wind that carries the rain. Does that make sense? I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, when someone gets shot, someone gets shot and dies. What do they say kills them? You don't read a news article that says they were shot by a bullet and died.
Oh,
Or gun.
The gun, okay? It says they're a victim of gun violence. Well, it's not the gun that killed them. It's the bullet. The gun just carries the bullet. Does that make sense?
But the guy carried it.
I know. I'm just little picture. The gun carries the bullet. The bullet's what actually kills the person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you don't just throw the gun.
You're not gonna pick the gun up and just chuck it at them.
You know, they just die.
Okay? That's not gonna work. You see it in the movies all the time. Like they run out of bullets, so they just chuck the gun and run. Not gonna work. You shoot the gun, the bullet kills the person. But they say it's the gun that does it. Same thing here. The monsoon's not the rain. It's the wind that carries the rain. But when you hear monsoon, you think of rain. Does that make sense? Okay. Sweet. So the summer monsoon's the one that we're more familiar with. This is the one that brings the ocean air that causes the rain. Okay? But there's a winter monsoon too. The summer monsoon comes from the southwest, from the Indian Ocean, and brings the rain. One second. The winter monsoon comes from the northeast, from the mountains, and brings cool, dry air. Does that make sense? Yep.
Oh. There's a blank for just normal monsoons, and then there's a blank for winter monsoon, but is summer monsoon supposed to go anywhere?
Probably.
Summer monsoon is the first one. And what?
No, that's summer monsoon. Summer and then winter. Cause see, right here's the second part of that. The summer monsoon brings heavy rainfall, causes severe flooding, but the rain is beneficial. It's good because they need the water. Okay, if they didn't have the summer monsoon, they would starve, even though it can cause flooding. Does that make sense? It's like a double-edged sword.
The win-win situation.
Yeah, it's either a win-win if you hate somebody or no win. You get the rain that helps you eat, but it floods your entire town. Your town survives, but you starve. Tropical storms. I feel kind of bad talking about this with Laura and Nell and Louisiana, but we got to talk about it anyway. Two types of tropical storms. Tropical storms form in the tropics. Surprise. Okay? Between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. If I'm right, Cancer is northern, Capricorn is southern. Okay? So basically 30 degrees within the equator. Or about whatever. Typhoons form in the western Pacific Ocean. Hurricanes form in the Atlantic and eastern Pacific Ocean. Basically, if it hits Asia or Australia or anything like that, it's a typhoon. Okay? If it hits the United States, the Caribbean, or Mexico, or South America, it's a hurricane. Does that make sense? I mean, look. This is a typhoon. This is a hurricane.
What's the difference?
There isn't one. It's just where they're located.
Okay, then why would they give it two separate names? They can just both be hurricanes.
Well, they could both be typhoons.
No, they were hurricanes.
That's just the way they have it. Basically, if it hits the Americas, it's a hurricane. Asia, it's a typhoon.
Okay, so it's just in a different language.
It's the same type of storm, just a different name. Like this, I'll kill Elias a second. This is Louisiana. This is New Orleans after Katrina.
That's what I was hoping to say.
Okay? Hurricanes can cause a ton of damage. Ton of damage. And that's just flooding. That's not counting wind damage and all that. Okay?
Computer it's so bright compared to the room.
Alrighty, let's talk about tornadoes. Tornadoes are storms in the United States. They can happen all over the world, but they happen much, much more in the United States. It's a twisting funnel-shaped storm. Tornado Alley is Middle America that gets a ton of tornadoes. That's what the yellow is up here. Tornado Alley, historically, is just from the Dakotas down to Texas, but it's starting to spread east. Okay, tornadoes are becoming much more common going east. Even here, we've had more tornadoes here in the last couple of years than I can remember.
We have.
There was a bad one. I want to say it touched down out of Fancy Gap, 2017.
I think there was one that hit air, right?
There was a bad one in Galax, 2012. My senior year of high school. It touched down. Y'all know where the Galax Country Club is, where Bogies used to be. Creek Bottom, the big building that just shut down. That golf course right behind it. You know where I'm talking about? On Glendale.
To like the Independence golf course.
No, it's Galax.
Well, it's like on the backside of
It's kind of in the middle.
it. Like
You know where Country Club is? Okay. The old Elks Lodge on the 4-lane. You come past McDonald's headed towards Independence.
Yeah.
Go up that hill and there's that old Elks Lodge on the right.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, that road right before it's Country Club. Okay, off to the right. Go right and there's a golf course. Right there. Tornado touched down on that golf course. Ripped up trees, messed up the grass, went back through that little trailer park, and there's a little car wash across from Bojangles. It picked up their carport and threw it down into that bottom little ditch area. I mean, it was a pretty good tornado for Galax. They still had their football game that night, by the way. It didn't do that. It was delayed, but they still had the game. Anyway, the Fujita scale, probably mispronouncing that too, but whatever. The Fujita scale rates the intensity of tornado. It goes from an F0 to an F5. Okay? An F0 will knock over your lawn chairs. An F5 will destroy your house. And you're not going to make it. Okay? Make sense? Now let's talk about something that's hit much closer to home. Like I still have nightmares. Having flashbacks and nightmares of the great, time out. Climate has effects on crops, clothing, housing, and natural hazards. Okay? If you live in a hot area, your crops will die. If you live in a cold area, you're not going to wear a tank top and shirt and a t-shirt. Sorry, tank top and shorts. There we go. you're going to build your house out of what you have available. Like igloos, the Inuits built in Alaska, or like how they used to build mud houses. The natives built mud houses out in the desert, things like that. Okay? Give y'all a second. Man, I got excited too. I thought it was the next slide, and then it's just a buzzkill.
Is it
Earthquakes! Let's talk about earthquakes. So we just had one a couple weeks ago. They're more common at the plate boundaries. There's no plate boundary here. Or if there is, it's very, very old and not as active.
Wait, then how do we get one if they're in the plate boundary?
You can have them. They're more common at plate boundaries, but you don't have to have a plate boundary. The center of an earthquake on the surface of Earth is the epicenter, okay? Where it starts underground is called the focus. And the top of the Earth is the epicenter. And then the seismic waves are what cause the shaking. A seismograph is what measures, a seismograph detects if an earthquake's occurred. The Richter scale is a scale for used for measuring the intensity of an earthquake. It goes from 0 to 10. Okay? I don't think, as far back as I can remember, I don't think there's ever been a 10. The highest one I can think of right now was like an 8.5. Hit San Francisco back in 1904. And demolished the city. They had to rebuild the whole thing.
Wait, when was it?
1904. The big problem is the San Andreas Fault. Y'all ever heard of it?
No, I think so.
It's out in California. Okay? About the Sierra Nevada mountains. The San Andreas Fault is the most active fault line in the United States. Now, what happens is they're waiting for the big one to hit. And if that fault gives, it can send California underwater.
Sweet.
Destroy it, send it underwater. Also, if the big one hits that, it could trigger a chain reaction because earthquakes can cause volcanoes to explode. That's floods. We'll get to the volcanoes in a second. Let's talk about floods in a second. Floods happen when there's too much water. Okay? Like, might wash out a bridge or something. And then you have to rebuild it. Was the bridge okay after yesterday? Or did it wash out again? Okay. You can try and prevent floods by building embankments or levees, things like that. Doesn't always work. Typically it's low elevation or near rivers or the mouth of rivers that experience floods. Most common floodplains are along the Mississippi in the United States, parts of eastern China, and Bangladesh, which is in Southeast Asia. Good? Let's talk about volcanoes. Y'all see this tiny little red dot right here by where the laser's shaking?
That's Yellowstone.
Yellowstone. Yellowstone is an underground supervolcano. If it goes, it would be the force of, I want to say, 6 or 7 nuclear bombs.
Oh, sweet.
And it spit enough ash into the air that it would cause a nuclear winter without the radiation. It would kill the crops in the United States. It'd blanket the sky. It'd be bad. It'd be very bad.
How far could it launch the ash? Like, could it go into a different country? Well, obviously, it'd probably go to Canada.
Canada, us, Mexico would be rough. It could probably dim the sun in Europe. I mean, it's a ton of ash. We wouldn't see the sun for quite a while where we are. And we're on the other side of the country.
Would it even affect us?
Yeah.
How bad?
We wouldn't see the sun. It'd kill the crops.
And
Plant life would die, and then everything else would go too.
Sweet.
Anyway. Ring of fire. That's what you see here. It's along the Pacific. That's where volcanoes are most active. Hot spots. These are volcanoes that occur far away from plate boundaries. This is like the Hawaiian Islands. Questions? Tsunamis. These are terrifying. Tsunamis are terrifying. I'll show you a video in a minute once I'm done recording the lesson. I'll post it on, I might post it on Classroom, but anyway. Tsunamis are giant waves caused by earthquakes or volcanic eruptions. They can be detected with an early warning system, but not all countries have the money to install them, and they don't always work correctly. These, I believe, are from the tsunami that struck Japan back in 2009. I think it was 2010, 2009, 2010. I think it was 2009. And it was bad. I mean, it was really, really, really bad. It was really sad. One of my friends at the time, his dad was military, stationed in Okinawa in Japan. And it knocked out all the phone lines, so he didn't know for a few days whether his dad was even alive. He was okay. His dad was fine. But it was just one of those things, a few days you see the videos coming in from the news of the devastation, and he had no idea. But that's literally what it is. It's a wall. I mean, that's water. That is a wall of water engulfing everything. Okay? This is probably the one that scares me the most, of hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, whatever. Tsunamis scare me the most because it's just a split second. If you're on the beach and all of a sudden all the water starts receding, you better get to high ground immediately. Okay, this isn't. You know how you can watch like a time-lapse video of the tide going out and it looks really cool?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, but in an instant. It just, the water recedes, and then you got this coming at you.
What would happen if you like took a kayak down?
You would die. You're not making it. Sorry. I'll show you a couple videos in a few minutes of this. Yeah. Okay, erosion is the surface of the earth being formed. Okay. Weathering breaks rocks into smaller pieces. Erosion then moves the rock elsewhere. Okay, so it's like a multi-step process. Weathering breaks it down. Erosion moves it. Then down here at the bottom, right here, deposition is when the erosion drops it off. Okay, some of the agents of erosion are the wind, water. When there's weathering by water, this is technically chemical weathering because the chemical reaction that breaks down the rock. Ice, gravity, you have natural causes, you have human causes. I mean, the big problem with erosion is when you cut down trees and dig up plants and things like that, the root system is what holds the earth in place. You remove that system, it can erode away. Does that make sense? Okay. Man, this is more science class than geography. Bill Nye the Science Guy. Even though he's insane. Bless his heart.
Who, Bill?
Yeah. He's not even a scientist. He is a failed stand-up comedian, actually. Fun fact.
Reading off the same thing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But I love it when the news trots them out and they say, Bill Nye is talking about climate change. No.
You don't even know.
Might as well have Danny Tanner up there talking about climate change. Anyway, don't get me wrong, I love Bill Nye. I just don't think he's the best person to be talking about stuff like that. I can't say much because I don't know what it is either, but I teach history. So deposition's when the stuff that gets eroded gets dropped off. Simple enough? Sure? You good? No, I didn't mean good on your nose. I mean you understand this? It's like when you deposit money in the bank, you're dropping money off. Go. Water diversion. You can shrink a sea. Okay, this is the Aral Sea. in Central Asia. This is what it looked like near the beginning of the Soviet Union. Then the Soviet Union started siphoning water off of the rivers that led into the sea. And this is what it was, let's say 1970. This is what it is today. You see the difference?
Why would you want to do
It
that?
used to be blue lakes.
That's dry. That's the water right there. That's it. That's all dry.
Why would you want to do that? That's not a question.
Because the Soviet Union took the water upriver and used it for like irrigation and other things. So when they used it, they didn't set it to where it'd flow back. So the sea dried up.
Couldn't you make it come back?
It might be too late. I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but I think it might be too late. Colorado River, they use the river for irrigation. The Colorado River is not near as bad as this. It's gotten smaller, but they're not cutting it all the way off. Does that make sense? Sorry. Hoover Dam's on the Colorado River too. It's really cool. I've always wanted to go there. But I've always wanted to go to the Hoover Dam. It's in
Is that
Nevada.
like the biggest dam in the U.S.?
Thing's huge. It's really cool. Okay, another type of water diversion and management. We good?
Not exactly.
Not exactly.
Okay.
Dams, such as the Aswan High Dam, the Three Gorges Dam, and I'm not even going to attempt that one. The Aswan High Dam was built on the Nile River to stop seasonal flooding and provide hydroelectric power, which is good. The problem is now farmers downstream have to buy fertilizer because they don't get the water anymore. It doesn't have the same nutrients as when it used to be the Nile River would flood, deposit the nutrients, and when it went back down, that land was super, super fertile. But it doesn't do that anymore because of the dam, so they have to buy fertilizer. Make sense? Sweet.
Wait, so like on the website you put water diversion / management. Right here. That's what you put there.
No. This whole section is water diversion and management. You put dams. I don't even think you have to put all the examples. Nope, you just need to put the word dams. Okay, last three. You got canals. These are man-made channels for water or ship navigation. This is the Panama Canal that goes across the middle of Panama. You got reservoirs, which are man-made lakes. Then irrigation, which provides water for agriculture. Any questions there? Sweet. Landscape changes. You have agricultural terracing. So it's in China, Southeast Asia. These are flat areas cut into the side of the mountain to farm. You have polders, which are in the Netherlands. This is areas of reclaimed land from the sea. They've moved the water to have fertile land again. You have deforestation in Nepal, Brazil, Malaysia. This is the permanent removal of trees to make room for something besides forests, whether it's cities or just cutting the trees down, things like that. If you get rid of the forest, it's deforestation. Desertification, I hate this word. It's Africa and Asia. This is the expansion of arid conditions into non-arid areas. Basically, the desert's getting bigger. It's a big problem in North Africa near the Sahara Desert in an area called the Sahel. Or Sahel, I don't know. We're going to go with Sahel. Questions? Environmental changes. You have acid rain. Okay, this isn't like just raining sulfuric acid. It's any kind of precipitation with acidic components. Can be wet or dry. You have pollution in Mexico City, Chernobyl, oil spills, air pollution in Mexico, oil spills. Mainly, let's talk about Chernobyl for a second. This was a nuclear power plant in the former Soviet Union. It was near Pripyat, the Ukraine. 1986, it goes nuclear. Okay, one of the reactors melts down. This is Chernobyl. You can see where the forest is taking back the city. The whole city was abandoned like that in a matter of hours. Like today, you can walk in and there's still school desks set up with stuff in them from the 80s. It's another place on my bucket list. I've always wanted to go to Chernobyl.
Yeah, a lot of people die.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And people that didn't die in the blast or the meltdown died due to radiation from it. Well, today as long as you're not there too long, it's safe enough to visit. The Russians just don't want you there, and the Ukrainians don't really want you there either.
Why?
Well, the Russians don't want you there because it was a Russian thing that went wrong. The Ukrainians don't want you there because they still claim it's dangerous. I want to go though. So, and you got potential climate change. I knew I forgot something on this slide. Questions here?
It's blank to the right of the box. I'll do that one.
Yeah, there's nothing on the right. Influence technology. You have agriculture. You can make better fertilizers, better mechanization. You can grow more food, harvest it faster. You got energy uses. You have different types of energy: solar power, wind power, geothermal power, fossil fuels, nuclear fission. Transportation, you got roads. You got cars, planes, trains. You have suburbia. This couldn't be possible without automobiles. Like how you have you have the city and then you have the little neighborhoods outside the city. You couldn't have those neighborhoods without cars.
Why?
Because people would have to live in the city to get to their jobs. You would have to live in the city to work in the city. But now, like if I want to work in Roanoke, I don't have to live in Roanoke. I can live outside Roanoke and drive in.
Oh, wait. Yeah, okay.
Good?
Yeah.
Still too early?
Yeah.
Environmental impact on humans. You have settlement patterns. People way back when would settle flat land near the rivers because it was good for farming. Housing materials, I already talked about that. Agricultural activity, types of recreation. Like, I'm not going to go lay out on the beach here because we don't have a beach. Same way, you're not going to go to the ocean and try to go skiing down the mountain. Okay, where you live determines what you can do. Questions? Good.
What does the bottom box say? How do we not have it yet? Yeah.
That one? Transportation patterns you need for disaster planning. So like if you've gone to the beach, you see evacuation routes with the little hurricane symbol, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like right here, these are the evacuation routes for North Carolina. Oh, it says right there, coastal North Carolina. Anyway, so this is how you would evacuate from Corolla, the Outer Banks, Hatteras, Topsail, Carolina Beach, whatever. Okay? Does it make sense to everybody? Questions? All right. You guys have any questions? Leave a comment, email me, whatever. Ask a friend. You have vocab, study guide. Did your vocab quiz already go live? Probably a vocab quiz. If you don't have it now, it will come up. Test will be at home over the weekend for everybody. It'll go live Thursday morning. If you have any questions, let me know.